Hello everybody, it is Monika Zands and we are on the 5-day challenge, day 2, greatness. Hello Daphna, hello Alan, excited to have you here. I love it when you guys are here, it's so awesome. I hope that the outreach and the little shout out really helps. Hello Jan, how you doing? If you're new to the show, please make sure you say your name and where you're from. My name is Monika Zands. I'm a business consultant and a life coach. I help people see their greatness, be their greatness, and pay it forward. I help people take their life and business to the next level by showing them how to recognize their unique qualities within. All right, Digital K Ward, hello. Michelle McCone, hello. Good to see you. Really nice to have you guys here. Excited. So this is day 2 of seeing your greatness. So what does day 2 have in mind? So if you looked at the title, you saw that it said the greatness mirror. So we're going to talk about 3 different ways to understand what the greatness mirror is. Hello, Gift Biz Unwrapped. How you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to look at thank you, Alan. So if you love the content, if you love my programs, if you love my shows, feel free to swipe over to the right if you're on an iPhone and you can share it with your followers. You can share it on Facebook or on Twitter. That would be awesome. Also, if you're new to Periscope, when you tap on the screen, it gives those cute little hearts, those colorful little hearts on the side. So I love lots of different colors and I love lots of hearts because it reminds me that I'm providing you with value, I'm providing you with service, and I'm supporting some of the things you're looking for or that you desire. So when you give the hearts, it gives me the thumbs up. Yes, you're on track. And when you don't give the hearts necessarily, then either I know that you may not be paying attention or you're maybe distracted, or it's simply because the content, you're digesting the content. So it helps me to understand. You can also for sure ask questions, engage, share your insights. I love it when people do that. The other thing that's really valuable for any of you who are new to Periscope is when you hear something that really is beneficial to you, to go ahead and type in some of what you're learning, because it will really help people that are just tuning in or people that missed one of the points to remember the points. I tend to try to give points, bullets, 1, 2, and 3, so that people can really have something to take away, an action step, a call to action. All right, so we're going to jump right in. So the greatness mirror. So number 1, let's talk about what's called a negative projection, a negative projection. So if you are feeling in life like you're frustrated about things, then, or you're having a bad day, or you're feeling somewhat negative in general, it's very easy to look out in the world and anything that appears to mirror that, anything that seems negative in nature, anything that seems frustrating, anything out there in the world that seems negative, then we tend to project that out into the world, and so what shows up for us is more of that negativity. And we are typically used to knowing when someone is being angry at us or showing us something that we don't like, or we would judge about them, or we would criticize about them. Very often it's an opportunity for us to turn that insight on us and say, what about what they're doing or the way that they're being is a reflection of me? Outer reality is a reflection of inner experience. So if your outer reality reflects something negative, then you just want to turn it in on yourself and ask yourself, is that negativity that I'm feeling inside that I need to clean up, process, let go of? How do we clean it up? How do we do that? How do we process it? Well, there's multiple great tools to do that. Number 1 is a free-form writing, where you sit down with a designated amount of time. You can make it a minimum of 5 minutes. You can make it up to a couple of hours, where it's uninterrupted time, where you're literally stream of conscious writing. And the goal is to literally get it out of your mind, get it out of your thoughts, get it out of your head, so that when you're doing that, you then have the opportunity to actually be clean, be clear. Now, my recommendation when you do free-form writing, it's not intended for you to go back and read, because everything that you've just released, you don't want to have back. If it's negative energy, if it's frustration, if it's anger, the releasing of it, you want to let that go. So if you do it in a notebook, just rip out those pages, tear them into a bunch of shreds if you have a shredder, or if you burn things, go to your fireplace, go to an aluminum pot outside, burn that up, and just release it, and know in your heart that by doing so, you've actually released the attachment to some of that negativity or some of that frustration. Then, so we're familiar with that. We're familiar with that mirror. Sometimes, however, there is something called a positive projection, and this is something that a lot of people aren't aware of. Have you ever watched a program? Have you ever watched a speaker on stage? Have you ever watched a football game? And you're so immersed inside of that conversation, inside of an amazing play, inside of a player or someone that's really having a positive impact on you. I know that there was this incredible moment where I was at John of God in Brazil, and I was speaking with this man who, he has multiple sclerosis, he's in a wheelchair, and he went to go see this man, John of God is a healer out in Brazil. He went to go see John of God in order to hope to walk again. And what he got out of the experience with John of God is the opportunity to recognize that the healing came from within him. So for that man, the positive projection for me was he was secure, he was thoughtful, he was deep, he was genuine, he was authentic, he had a revelation, he realized that what he was blaming and angry about for his body not functioning the way that he wanted it to, he actually had this tenderness and this gentleness and this preciousness that allowed him to learn and appreciate what it was. And so everything that we see in someone else, we can't actually see it unless it resides in us. We can't actually come up with the categorization or the characterization of someone unless they come up unless that's true for us. So in life, we have the opportunity to look at the lens of what other people are that we love about them, and then turn that on ourselves and say, oh, what about me is like that? Where am I successful? Where am I genuine? Where am I authentic? Where do I make a difference? And by doing so, we begin to have that mirror of seeing inside of ourselves, recognizing who we are because it's being reflected out in the world for us to learn from. Monika Zands says, you can't see what you admire in others unless you have it in you. That's right. So as we do that practice, we begin to see our greatness, because our greatness is in everything that's being reflected out in the world. One of the things I love to tell people, this is a stumper, you guys, this is a big one, okay? One of the things I love to tell people is people show up in your life the way they need to show up in order for you to learn what your soul curriculum is meant to teach you. People show up in your life for you to learn what your soul curriculum is intending for you to learn. So consider this. There may be a person, a teacher, a person, a family member, a sister, a sibling, a friend who shows up in your life and you're like, it's sandpapery and it's scratchy, and every time you're around them it feels like, what do I do with them? How do I be with them? How do I be gracious with them? How do I be forgiving with them? How do I be compassionate with them? And you find that you have a much lower tolerance, you have much less patience with them. And so when you're around them, it's not easy. And there's work that you do, and sometimes it may feel like you're walking on eggshells. But what you start to learn is that they show up that way, maybe, because it's exactly what you need to learn. If one of the things you're developing, that you're cultivating inside of you, is this experience of having greater compassion, of recognizing the gift within, of being more truthful in your conversation, if those are some of the things you need to learn, or patience, then can you imagine that the universe might throw at you some opportunities to learn that? And we can't decide what those opportunities are going to be like or look like. Those opportunities are going to present themselves. And it's up to us to catch them as opportunities and then use the gold that's within the learning. So the question for you that I kind of leave you guys with is, are there people in your life for whom you've wished would be different, but not realizing that the moment you shift how you relate to them, how you treat them, and how you treat yourself in relationship to them, they naturally, the byproduct of that action or that experience or that shift could actually literally release them from having to be the person teaching you that lesson. Does that give you freedom? What does that do for you? Like, what does that bring forward for you? Thinking about that as a possibility. That mindset might help us to deal with those scratchy relationships. Yes, digital K-word, absolutely. So that's part of what I mean when we're looking at the greatness mirror. It's going to require that we look beyond just us, and we look beyond the body in front of us that has the name of someone that we love, that looks like our daughter and looks like our husband and looks like our mother. but is actually the very lesson we've been asking to learn at the deepest levels that maybe we haven't been so willing to admit to ourselves that we're really in the process of learning that lesson. And then number 3, and this is really an important one. We talked about this yesterday when we were talking about taking inventory as day 1. Look at yourself in the mirror. Who do you see? What's the first thing you see? When you're doing these periscopes, sometimes you're looking at yourself. So if I'm looking right into my own eyes and I'm looking at myself, what is the first thing I see? I look into my eyes typically first. Then I kind of look right here to see, am I frowning and squinching my forehead, or am I squinching my nose so that I can relax my face? But look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what's the first comment that I make? Do I tell myself how much I love myself? Do I tell myself what I see about myself that's positive and wonderful, that I would compliment someone else in an instant? Or do I look for the faults? Do I look for the problems? Do I look for the challenges? Do I look for the burden when I look at myself in the mirror? Your greatness mirror awaits you, but you get to create what's in the mirror looking back at you. And it's so important that you start doing that. It's a practice, it's a muscle, you get to build it. So here are 3 tips when you're looking in the mirror for yourself. Number 1, you know you best. So no one can tell you about you better than you. You know you best. Number 2, you have all the resources necessary to make all the most important choices and decisions in your life on your behalf. You have the resources. So when you go out in the world and you ask for help and you ask for advice and you ask for feedback, sometimes what you're going to get is not what you're wanting because you're not trusting your own voice. So you know you best. And you have all the resources necessary to be the most valuable asset for yourself. And finally, number 3, what other people say about you or tell you is none of your business. What other people say about you or to you, their opinions, is none of your business. Why? Because it's their experience of you, and it comes from their mirror, from their projection, from their lens. So we may listen to it as a consideration for feedback, checking in with our own inner guidance, our own inner counselor, and asking ourselves, does that resonate? Does that ring true? But really, if you aren't trusting your own inner guidance, and you're expecting that the world out there can give you more information about you than you can, then the journey to you will just add a little bit more distance and a little bit more time. So if you want that time to be shortened and that distance to be a little bit less, for the challenges to be just a little bit simpler, then you might consider asking yourself, taking yourself on a walk and getting your own advice. What would your advice to you be? Imagine you were sitting across from me and you were going to ask me a question. Go ahead and write that question down and then ask yourself, how would you coach you? What would you tell you? You're your greatest gift. Don't forget to use it. So that's our tip, day 2 challenge. So how can you find me? You can find me on Facebook at Monika Zands Consulting. That's my public figure page. That's where we have great quotes and inspiration. That's where I have articles, daily challenges. That's where I also have